Hey, Mike Callahan, back again with another video breaking down how to use Service Autopilot. And what this video is going to be outlining is the ultimate Service Autopilot blueprint. So growing a business and setting up Service Autopilot 100% can be tough. Let's face it, a lot of us are in that 10% club, only using 10% of Service Autopilot. So basically going in and setting up a CRM, a customer relationship management software, such as Service Autopilot, can be really challenging for a lot of folks. I want to use a couple analogies before I actually break down the actual blueprint itself. But trying to switch and learn a new software in while you're using your business can be pretty tough. It's kind of like driving to all your jobs throughout the day with no map, or maybe buying that IKEA furniture and not having any instructions to put it together, or even better yet, trying to estimate a job you've never performed before. So you're kind of in the dark. You haven't been acclimated or introduced how to set these things up. And it's hard because guessing doesn't work. So what I'm going to try to do in this video here is take the guesswork out of setting Service Autopilot up and take on a very high level what the system should look like fully set up. And I'm going to pop the screen over here and show you a flow chart of what it looks like fully set up, how to implement it in your business. And then I'll actually give you a real world example walking through one of my demo accounts of how we used it in my lawn care business and snow removal. So I'm going to pull this up here, and any comments or questions on the live video, feel free to drop them in there. But I'm going to really dive into this here and bump it out. So literally from left to right is lead acquisition all the way through estimating, scheduling, billing, and fulfillment, and collections of money. Obviously, you want to get paid. So what we're going to be looking at here is I'm going to dive in and just bump this up here so you can actually see on the screen what this looks like. So as we're looking at it here in the main part of the screen off on the left-hand side, the first thing we want to be looking at here is client info. How do we set up the software to take your client info and get it into the software with no double entry and, yes, duplicate checkings? The first thing we want to do is track the sales source. Where did they hear about us? So obviously, if they came off the website, we set that sales source on that V3 form, and I'm going to suggest a V3 form for that. Reason being, it's going to do automatically dupe checking, and it's going to create the lead in the system, and it won't by mistake create a client. So it's going to force you to go in and start with a lead, and it's going to duplicate checking amongst other things, the first name, last name, and email, just as a minimal. So we've got that person in there. Now, once they hit that estimate request, if it's set up appropriately, we're going to know what services are interested in, so we can go in and have an automated but personal conversation down the line if we're using automations. As we scroll in here, we've got the client calls our office. So the next thing we want to do is create a phone intake form to standardize our call script and the information that is taken into the software. So first name, last name, service address, email, mobile phone number. And yes, once again, the sales source. So we want to go in this and set up all your lead sources. So how did people hear about you? Was it a Facebook ad? Was it from your truck? Was it from another customer referral? Whatever those things are, we want that set up in the system. I'm going to be including a link here for a free SA audit. So these are the things that we can go in and actually dial into for you. And I'll put this in the notes here. But if you want to hit that, we're doing free 30-minute audits of SA to see where all the points that you are missing in your setup here as well. But the idea is we want to go create that phone intake form. It tracks the sales source. So now we know basically how many people came from each marketing source, how many of them requested an estimate, how many of those people became clients. And then with some data, once it's in the system fully set up, we can go into each marketing source and say X amount of people came in, and on average, X percentage of those people converted into a client. And this is what our average cost per acquired customer is from a 9-around, a door hanger, Facebook ad, whatever that is. And then once we get a little more data in the system, we can run a client lifetime value. So that's really important, because now when we go out and scale our business each year, we have a predictable roadmap, and that's what we're looking for. So the next thing is, once they're in SA, predominantly we are going to go in and create an estimate. So whether it's in person or over the phone, based on some variables such as lawn square footage or some other things we maybe answer over the phone, we want to go in and create this estimate. So we're going to be concentrating on things called custom fields. And these custom fields are job variables. So in lawn care, we're tracking turf square footage, number of small, medium, and large shrubs, maybe linear length of bed edging, or linear length of stick edging, linear length of blowing. whatever that is in that job, maybe the square footage of a bed for mulch installation. We can have separate pricing and production set up for 1, 2, or 3 inches of mulch. But the idea is we want to get these variables, whether it's online through Smart Maps or Maps Pro measuring on satellite or in person. And once those are in there, we would go in and hit the add the estimate button. And what comes in is a pre-templated estimate. So we're going to standardize this so we can delegate it, or if we're still doing the estimates ourselves, we have a predictable, quick workflow, either it's in the office or in person. But we're going to select the template, let's just say for landscape maintenance or landscape install or snow removal or holiday lights. We'd have different templates pre-built where all those services load in. And based on those custom fields or job variables, it is going to automatically calculate a price based on our production rate based matrices we've set in the back of the system. And the idea is everything loads and you're going to hit draft a quote for the ones you want. Now, if some of those services populate a price and we're not quoting them, that's fine. You leave them where they are, but it's going to automatically calculate that price for you. Now, if you're looking at this saying, well, Mike, that sounds really great, but I don't know how long it takes to mow, blow, and edge a property per square foot, or I don't know how long it takes to install mulch or trim those bushes at small, medium, and large. That's okay. So whether you're building yourself or you work with an expert like SimpleGrowth, we can go in and figure out based on what you're charging per hour, we can create custom fields and matrices based on you looking at it and saying, I think it's going to take X amount of hours or minutes to do this job, and then it would calculate a price in budgeted time and a cost before profit automatically without any emotion. So the idea is we're going to standardize the system so we have predictable workflow. So whether it's based on production rates or minutes or hours, how long you think it's going to take on your experience, we can do that. But the cool thing is once we have enough data in the system, we can run a report in 3 to 6 months and say, okay, based on what actually happened with your guys and girls in the field and your particular equipment, not an industry average, we can go out and create production rate based estimates on your guys and girls and your equipment. So we can standardize that. You can evolve through the system. So this is why this is the ultimate roadmap to service autopilot, because we can take you from where you're at and get you to where you want to go if that's the case. But the idea is now we've got this estimate ready to go with a pre-built template. All your contract verbiage or estimate verbiage is in there as far as if we have different collection fees, if they don't pay you, things like that. Maybe a credit card's recorded on file. All that is in the estimate/contract. So if you can't close them in person or over the phone, next thing we want to do is we want to go out and email that estimate. I don't know about you, but I don't want to spend my day writing one-off emails. So what we do is have a standardized pre-templated email that loads. You can adjust it on the fly if you want. And then you tweak and send it. Now that email goes out to your customer. They can click on it, select the services they want, and sign electronically. And then when they sign electronically, the time and date stamped IP address is there, and you have a printable PDF with their electronic signature. So it's a streamlined workflow. Now, the next thing we want to look at here is, as we scroll across this here, I'm going to kind of swing this over. And if I can, it's a little touchy, but you get the idea. So right now, we're back over here on the far left side screen, loss estimate. So with a fully set up software here, we need a way to handle our loss estimates. And what I'm going to recommend is we close that lead out so we can see them in the system, but we're not counting them as a lead that could actually still buy. So now we have a clear view in our sales pipeline of how many people could buy and how many people are not going to buy, but we can still see them and nurture them and upsell them services throughout the year. But the idea is we want to have database hygiene, so we have a very clean look at what's going on in your software. Now, if an estimate's one, what I'm going to recommend is most cases is we schedule right off the estimated service. So our price, our budgeted time, our materials, and our cost before profit are automatically transferring over to that job. So there's no double entry, and what needs to be on that estimate automatically transfers over with no data entry. In addition, by doing so, it's going to force you to convert that lead into a client. Now, this is very important because database hygiene. We don't want Mrs. Smith in there as a lead and a client. We want to have her go through that customer life cycle and move from lead to client, so we have good stats and good data. Now, the next thing is we're going to go and schedule the work. So when Service Autopilot is set up to the ultimate blueprint, there's 3 to 4 different ways to schedule your work. So the first one is a one-time job. We know when we're going to schedule it. The next one is a reoccurring job. So it could be your weekly, your bi-weekly, every 3 or 4 weeks, depending on the service. But the idea is it's a reoccurring repetitive service. Now, the next one is a waiting list job. So that going into the fall season here, we can be looking at a fall cleanup. Fall cleanups may have to be done from November 1st to November 30th, but they don't have to be done on a particular day. So the waiting list gives you that flexibility to go out and schedule that job based on route density to minimize that non-billable drive time, or when you're already in that area. Now, building upon that logic, we also have a package job. So that could be fertilization. So in the spring, maybe our pre-emergent application has to be done between March 1st and March 30th. Now, it doesn't matter if it's done on the 1st or the 30th or somewhere in between, long as it's within that predictable range. So what a package job is a series of waiting list jobs that allows us to go out and do a reoccurring service in certain scheduled time blocks for better routing and flexibility for the business. Now, the last one is going to be a on-demand job. So if you do snow removal, it basically does exactly what it says. It's on demand. So when the snow or the ice, or the combination of both hit, we go out and put that on-demand job into play. Now, before we schedule the work, we always want to double check there's a price and budgeted hours. But if you're following the process of going from an estimate to the job, that'll always be there. So that's reassuring that. Now, the next thing is routing. So we want to be able to go out and route optimization. So we want to select the jobs visually on a map and optimize from start to end. In-service autopilot, 23 or less stops are free. We can use that through Google. 24 or more can be done through a couple different platforms in there at a very small cost, but it'll allow you to optimize massive amounts of jobs all at once. So in our snow removal division, a lot of times we would have 600 driveways. And by using the larger optimization feature, we could chunk them all up and then literally grab chunks of 60 to 70 driveways and route them so they ran into each other. So if we ever had a breakdown or issues, we had optimization of routes running into each other. So that's a great feature. But once you're done routing, you want to double check the order visually on the map with the pins, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, just so you know it's right. Once you save it, they automatically populate each week. Now, the next thing is a dispatch board. So this is where we get those jobs out into the field to play. So we can go out and under the upper right-hand corner in V2, there's a more button, and we can drop it in and we can adjust the crews. So that's where we drag and drop our crew updates. So if you're coming in Monday morning at a no-call, no-show, we can drag that gentleman or lady off the crew and replace them. So our job costing and productions and billing is correct, really within about a 2 to 3 second drag and drop. And we're going to select our jobs and dispatch them. So now they're live in the mobiles, or if we're still printing them out, we have printed hard copy. And then as we scroll over here, we've got our last 2 columns that we want to really look at. This is the closeout day screen. The closeout day screen is really probably the most important screen in the whole entire system in Service Autopilot, because this is the last place a human can physically touch this for seeing the start and stop times. Do we have a budgeted time? Do we have a price? Those are the things we want to look at. So we're setting ourselves up for invoicing success, payroll success, and production rate and job costing success. So we want to have a 2 to 3 minute sweep through here each day to make sure we have good data in, so we have good data out. Now, whether you're billing daily, weekly, or monthly, when we hit midnight, these invoices automatically generate. So if you're used to sitting in QuickBooks manually at the end of the month, pumping out hours of invoices, that never happens anymore. So we take our 2 to 3 minutes a day and review the closeout day screen, and they automatically generate those invoices. And if you sync to QuickBooks, it automatically takes those invoices and swings them right over to QuickBooks with no double entry. And then the final part here is invoicing to collection. So everybody wants to get paid. And predominantly when you set up a system like Service Autopilot, everybody runs over to this part of the system, but you've missed all the foundational things we've already been talking about. So they systematically build on top of you with a foundation. But the things that I'd like to go through when you get to this point is, how do we charge credit cards? How do we invoice the emails? How do we print invoices? And all in a matter of three to four clicks of a button, within minutes, everything's done. So whether you're batching out one invoice or several thousand, it happens in minutes. And then the final part is to enter prepayments in, so they are assigned to the particular service that they're prepaying for, and any contract or basically installment jobs. We want to make sure that we have the installment set up with the jobs that are associated with it. And then when we dispatch or create a job, we associate that job to the contract, and then we can have a price and budgeted time to that job. So we don't double bill the client, because it's just going to be included in the contract, but we have all the information for production rate reports and job costing reports. So those are the main things for your ultimate blueprint to success in Service Autopilot. Like I said, if you're watching the live version of this video, feel free to click the link below to get a free 30-minute audit from the SimpleGrowth team, and no pressure. We're just going to show you where we see some gaps in your system. So I'm going to dive into Service Autopilot and actually show you what happens when we break this type of system down. So the first thing we're doing is we're going in and adding a lead. And when we add this lead in, we want to be able to go in and put our first name, last name of the lead, whoever's calling us, in this on the phone or off the web. The web form would automatically create this. We're going to get their service address. And we'd probably ask their postal code. And when you do that, it's going to prompt the confirmation of a city if it's in question. And now you'll notice the service address automatically populates in the billing address. So we're minimizing any data entry. But if we need to override the billing address later, we can. Next thing is I'm going in and I'm getting their email. Very important, especially with automations and email marketing. And then we're going to get their cell phone. We want their cell phone. And the reason why we want their cell phone is we can automate text messaging to follow up on estimates. And if they become a client, we can use a system called Be There, Been There to automate, hey, we're on our way to the job, and hey, we finished the job. All completely automated. So the next thing I'm going to recommend is going under the details and selecting account type, commercial or residential. This is really important for automations and reporting. And then the last thing is sales source. We talked about that. We want to have our lead sources set up. And we came maybe from a 9-round direct mailing. So we're going to hit save there. Now this lead is created. It's going to do dupe checking. This is a test address that we use all the time. So it checks it and says, hey, wait a minute. There's something that looks like this in the system. Is it okay? Or do we want to already go with this one that's in the system? So now we've created a lead. And there's some visual clues here that we also go into this ultimate blueprint. But the long gray bar across the screen is going to signify that that's a lead. And when they become a client, and we talked about converting a lead to a client for database hygiene and lead source tracking conversion, it's 3 distinct columns. So there's some visual clues here for your team as well. The idea is you really want to go up to the More tab and go into property measurements. We're going to measure this online. Then I'm going to show you the process if we can't measure it online. And then I'm going to walk you through the estimate process. So you can see what the ultimate blueprint to Service Autopilot actually looks like in a service business setup. But once we click over to the satellite view, we're going to dial in here. Now, whether you're using version 2 or version 3, the same functionalities here, it just may look a little bit different. But we're going to plug this in and measure the area here of the house. And we're going to grab the turf square footage. And I'm going to show you how we can adjust the edit area here too once we get it. So I forgot to drop this button over here. I can edit it on the fly. But the idea is you want to label this up on the left here of turf square footage. And I would recommend coloring it just so now every time we pull this up, if I hit save, this will be automatically saved so I can see the area I've actually estimated. And then the next thing I'm going to do is go in and I'm going to subtract an area fictitiously of a pool, just so you can kind of see what goes on here. So I can go in and add or subtract or leave a null value. So I'm just going to put this in as our pool and grab our blue here and drop that in. So now I've got this area here, and I'm going to hit this plus sign and make it a negative. And you can see it takes that from the 8,000 square feet and it gives me about 7,400. So I am going to go down now and select my custom field. Now, you'd never have this many custom fields here, but this is obviously a test account. So I grab my turf square footage and hit save. And now I've saved that job variable or the custom field that we talked about in the workflow blueprint. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, Mike, what happens if I can't measure it online or I really want to do an on-site estimate? So the thing is, you're going to go for your A for auto assist in your laptop in the truck or car that you're doing estimates in, or in your mobile phone in the Service Autopilot app. And you can pull this up, and this will pull up this ability. So I'm going to go to my on-site estimate form. And this is This is something that SimpleGrowth built proprietary to our workflow that we teach people, because we needed a way to not teach the features and functions of a software, but we wanted to teach a workflow. And how can you delegate that or use it yourself to streamline a process? So if we couldn't measure the turf square footage, we have an area here, linear length of landscape bed and bed square footage. I'm just going to jump down and say, okay, maybe I want to do a mulch job and I can't measure that online. So I'm going to say it's a 2-inch job and I've got a 1,000 square foot bed. Now, if I put the 1,000 in the 1-inch or the 3-inch, it would calculate a price based on that depth. So we've customized our estimating based on the particular outcome. So the idea is you walk around, you measure it online or do it here, and you put the variable in, and it's going to calculate a price, budgeted time, and a profit, basically, or a cost before profit, materials, and labor. So I'm going to go in and shrub pruning. I'm going to go into my large, medium, and small shrubs. So my large shrubs, I'm going to fictitiously say there's 10 of those. Those are larger than 6 feet up to 10. My medium are in here, let's say there's 5. And then my small shrubs are under 3 feet. So I'm going to say there's 15 of those. Then I got hedgerows with or without a ladder. So I'm going to say without or with a ladder, I'm going to say there's 2 sections at 10 feet each. So 20 linear feet of hedgerow, both sides. And I've got an area where I can put property specific notes. I'm going to say does not include hedgerow on west lot line. So the reason why we have this here is a lot of times, at least myself, I'm walking around the property and I'm making a mental note, or I'm trying to scribble it down on a piece of paper. And by the time I get to the estimate, I forgot to add those notes. And now you can add them directly from your mobile, and they're going to incorporate from the mobile right to the estimate. So you never forget to have specific notes based on that shrub pruning job. Now, if we're doing snow removal, we can go in and put parking lot or driveway square footage. I'm going to put 1,200 square feet for that there. And I've also got the notes here. I'm going to say does not include turnaround on driveway. So if I was doing an estimate now or in the future, that note would apply to the estimate for snow removal. But the idea is we hit submit here now. So we measured it online, or we've done an on-site estimate form through our mobile or walking around with a laptop. And we'd scroll back up, and now we have the ability to just literally click and go for this estimate. And this is really instrumental. This is how I took myself doing 35 to 40 estimates a day in the spring season to delegate those and have pretty much the almost identical pricing results, because we created a process and system around there. Now you notice the on-site form here, that is an audit trail. So it's always there to refer back to what was put in. And now we simply go into templates. And when we click templates, that's going to load the document, the grids, the matrices for everything we want in there at once. We don't have to click around and select multiple things. We've connected them. So we're going to go in and grab a lead template. I recommend making a lead and client template. Reason being is if you have a lead that's never worked with you, that's a significantly different conversation than a client that you've worked for. So as we're going in here in the test account, I may have clicked the wrong custom field, but obviously we set this up. In your instance, you'd only have one church custom field. We've got about 45 or 50 here. But that 7,400 square feet would automatically load in from the map, and fictitiously, I've got a price of $30, 0.4 hours to do it, and a cost of $14.76 before profit, labor, materials, full overhead. Now, what I've done is broken down residential postal codes or towns that we're working in. So if I put the number 1 next to this town, it's going to automatically calculate a price based on 0.16 man hours and a cost of $5.91. So what I've done now is given Service Autopilot the ability to figure my on-site price, budgeted time and cost before profit, and then a quote-unquote non-billable mobilization price, time, and cost. All the consumer is going to see is this $38.09 for mowing, but now that's my imaginary checklist of estimating behind the scenes. So when you use the automated, or basically the fully set up blueprint from SimpleGrowth, these are the things that you can happen in your business. Now, let's go in here, and I'm going to put that 7,400 in there, and this would automatically calculate, but in the haste of all the different test accounts here, I didn't select the right custom field. Like I said, you would only have one in a normal account. But what happens here is it takes that 7,400 square feet and it's calculating a price for each application, a time, and a cost of labor, overhead, and materials for your fertilizing. And all we'd have to do is go to draft a quote and we were able to do that. You'll notice our grub control is significantly more expensive than our normal round here. So if you have different products or production rates, you need to charge more or less for each round, you can do that as well. And then you'll see down here, when the system is fully set up, you would default this to whatever view you want. So I would recommend package item total only. So once you have this set up, under estimate settings, you would have this automatically set, so you would never have to click this. So I'm going to go in and quote our mowing and our fertilization, and let's go down to the shrub pruning here as well. So you'll see, obviously, using that on-site estimate form, the number of shrubs pumped in there automatically, just like the square footage did, and turf. And now I've got a price for each size a bush and a budgeted time. So that's a $286 pruning. Now I can go in and add my dump fee, which is already here. So if there's certain things you want to have defaulted in, I've got a dump fee with budgeted time. And I'm going to go back in and add the number 1 next to that postal code again for drive time. But you notice instead of $8, it's $140 mobilization round trip, because I can't do as many pruning jobs in a day as I can in mowing. So I've got to spread that non-billable time across fewer jobs. It's $140. So I'm going to hit quote here. And what we're going to see here is that this pruning job, the customer is only going to see $426. They don't know we've counted the number of shrubs. They don't know we've charged for disposal or drive time. But now we know it's $426. It's 6 hours for one person to get it done. And it's costing me before profit, fictitiously in this example, $212. Now we've got a systematic way to go through and build this out. Now remember, I also said we'll forget to put in the notes of, hey, it doesn't include the hedgerow on the west lot line. We've included that and linked it in here automatically. So you'll see that on the quote in a minute. So all we need to do is go down now and hit save, and it's going to save this in the system, and it's going to pull up an automated email that links everything together for you. And this is not part of automations. This is the standard system of service Autopilot if you set it up 100% for what we're showing you here from SimpleGrowth as a certified advisor. So if you need some help, once again, there is a link here in the comments to click and get a free 30-minute audit, whether you're using Service Autopilot or another platform. We also do audits for other softwares as well to see where you're missing some gaps. But the idea is we've got a pre-templated email, some clickable buttons if they're mobile to call or text our office. We've got our lead letter. These are the 5 or 6 main reasons why our business is different and why they'd want to work with us besides our competitors. And yes, some testimonials, some social proof. So we're going to go in and hit send. And I'm going to hop on my other screen here and pull up my email and show you what the consumer is actually going to get in their email. But this is, basically the ideal setup for Service Autopilot. And when it's 100% set up, this is what you're getting out of the system. A predictable system can be delegated to an office person, a virtual assistant halfway across the world, or if you're using it yourself, you're buying hours and hours a week back with predictable systems and processes. So what we've got here now is I'm pulling it over. We've got the email. So right now, if you're looking at this, I am your potential new consumer. So I'm going in as a consumer saying, oh, all right, perfect. Let's check this out. Let's click to view my proposal. And when this is here, it loads in, and obviously it doesn't have to look like this, but we've got an estimate. We've got billing information. Step 1, select the services. Step 2, accept and sign the screen. So as a proof of concept, I don't recommend this for lawn mowing or any other service to have this much detail on the service item, but you can have as much or as little detail as you want. I'd recommend having just some service details on the mowing and terms and the extra stuff down below this in the contractual area. I've got my lawn mowing for $38 a cut. So I'm going to click and accept it. Fully set up, I highly recommend creating a video and embed it on the service line and then some other ones down below. And I'm going to get into that in a second. But this is your roadmap for success of SA. This video actually plays live inside the estimate. So you can create your virtual 24/7 salesperson. We want to address what's included in the service, what's not included, and overcome any sales or price objections. So we're creating a higher perceived value so you can charge a higher price. And we're shortening that sales cycle by addressing things like, do I need to be home to have the service done? Is there certain insurance I should be requiring? This is a way to automate the sales process and not have it revolve around the business owner to close sales. We've got our fertilization. A lot of states require all the EPA information. So I've got each application with all their information and time and the price. So I can go in now and select the 5-step fertilization. And now the last thing is shrub pruning. Special job notes. Look at that. Merges right into the estimate. Does not include the hedgerow on the west lot line. We didn't forget it. We put it in our mobile on-site estimate form. It was predictable. Now, the consumer gets all the information they need here, what's included, but we've been able to break down a production rate based estimating system on small, medium, and large shrubs, hedgerows with or without a ladder, and disposal and drive time. We've created a glorified invisible estimating checklist behind the scenes, and now we make sure we have profitable and predictable estimates each and every time. We've got invoice details, general contract terms, some more clickable buttons if they're on their mobile. And I included 9 more videos of our core services where we educated what was included and what wasn't included. So it's a soft education with possibly an upsell on it. Then the most important part, if you need a signature, which I recommend, click here to sign. They can sign electronically with their mouse. They print their name and accept. And before I hit that accept, if you need to provide MSD labels or anything else for chemicals, for chemical tracking, all that information can be built right into the system of Service Autopilot. So it's a one-stop shop, especially if you're in a state like New York that requires a signature, electronic or physical. This is actually going to cover you per New York State DEC law, amongst other states as well. Now, obviously, always check with your state, but this is the process that's going to do that. So what I'm going to do now in a minute is jump back into Service Autopilot and show you what a electronic signature looks like and the stamp and date IP address. So now I'm back in here. I'm going to close out of this estimate. And lo and behold, the estimate is already marked to 1. So I'm going to click into this. And when you have the fully set up Service Autopilot based on the SimpleGrowth blueprint, you're going to have that signature information all up here, time and date stamped to the IP address, and under attachments, we're going to be able to go in and click the attachment and get a printable PDF with the electronic signature. And I will tell you, as far as like pesticide laws, obviously check with your state, but this works. We've been audited with it. Or if you're going to collections between the time and date stamped IP address and the electronic signature on your contract, it is a slam dunk. And if you can see it here, I'm going to bump this right out. You can see my electronic signature here. So if this is something of interest, whether you're using Service Autopilot or another platform, feel free to click the link here for the SA audit or basically the CRM audit. But what we're going to do is take you through this fully set up process and make sure that you're not missing any of the dots. A lot of times when people come in to set Service Autopilot up or any other software, a lot of the dots are there, but they're not connected in a streamlined workflow. So to set this up, there's probably 25 or 30 places you need to touch in the system. But once it's set up, we're working on 5 to 6 screens of success with basically streamlined predictability and success for your service business. This can be done for lawn care, pest control, home cleaning. Home cleaning, a lot of times, the question is, and even in lawn care, maybe we don't want to give an exact price. We figured out, based on this process, how to do a high-low price range. So spring and fall cleanups are ideal. Maybe you don't want to do a set price, but you can set a minimal with a maximum, and the customer and you are protected on both ends. And we've done this through paving, driveway sealing, hardscape, design, build. This is the foundational setup of Service Autopilot for success, with some minor tweaks based on your industry. So if you're interested to see if you're using all the parts of success in Service Autopilot or any other CRM, click the link below for your free SA audit.